speaking about economic tips, Nigerians have been going through harrowing experiences since the end of the fuel subsidy regime. In spite of the nationwide protest that the president did a couple of days ago, promising to reel out this intervention and cushioning effect, as it is often referred to, Nigerians' labor is deciding to go on strike, on a protest rather, today. What can the government do to further approach them and have the conversation to ensure this strike does not stifle economic activities that would indeed worsen the current economic realities? That's what we'll be discussing. And to discuss all of this is Honorable Shehu Attar. He is a member, APC, and convener, Bola Tinubu School to School. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you so much, Joy.
Good morning, Honorable, and thanks for being with us.
Nice to be with you, Madam
Great.
Ife. How are
So,
you? Yeah.
Joy has given us a preamble of, the current situation as at today. NLC has actually said they're beginning their strike. NLC is on strike. TUC is also joining them. We're looking at the gross domestic GDP of Nigeria. We're dealing with a lot. We're talking about 28% inflation rate, 27% inflation rate. We're looking at double-digit interest rates. We're looking at, of course, like she mentioned, the removal of the fuel subsidy, which has added a lot. Before then, we even had the Naira redesign saga that also had crippled so many businesses. So it's a back-to-back woto kind of, economic hardship for Nigerians. So on one side, we can understand that NLC is calling for a strike. We can say, okay, no, we're trying to make things better for the working class people of Nigeria. However, to what purpose? Is it a detriment to the government? Is it a detriment to our economic stability that we so badly need to, get out of the comatose and then put it on its feet? But let's hear your point of view on this, and then we'll have more conversations.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to talk to, for us to be able to advise ourselves this morning, because, when you see what is going on in the country, it's like compared to the pain of a childbirth. You go through the labor for some time, it's going to be a very short time. But afterwards, you're happy with the childbirth, and celebration begins and all that. So I can compare it to that, because before, Asiwaju is barely 60 days old in the office, and what we are facing today is not Asiwaju's making. Even the removal of fuel subsidy, it has been signed. It was not budgeted for that there's going to be subsidy beyond June 2023, June 31st, 2023. So he just came and he continued from where the last government stopped, because government itself is a continuum. You have to continue from where you met. So most of the thing happening now is not the doing of Asiwaju. He is just like, you can compare him to a fire serviceman.
He didn't start the fire, but he has to put it out.
So he has to put it out. He's just like a fire brigade. He's just here to ensure that, the country was going through a lot of hemorrhage. Like, he just came with a tourniquet to get this thing, stopped first. The country was hemorrhaging. How? The country was subsidizing fuel that was directly or indirectly being benefited from our neighboring countries. We are all witness to what has been happening to the country. Spent so much money that ought to have been channeled for infrastructure, for our schools, for our hospitals, for the productivity of the economy, is being pumped into fuel subsidy. And obviously it was not sustainable. So what's happening now is, like I've said in the beginning of this conversation, it's like the pain of the child's birth. We are happy day before yesterday he addressed the whole country. He has laid out his plans that is going to be used to address the current challenges, while putting in sustainable measures to ensure that, we all have a country.
Yeah, but that's where the conflict is, because when you say sustainable measures, Nigerians
what I'm saying,
feel that
those sustainable measures
should have come in place. For example, we talked about the removal of the fuel subsidy. Fuel subsidy was supposed to run till the end of 31st of June.
Absolutely.
And then there was no budget for it in 2023.
Yeah.
However, which I didn't fault, I like the fact that he could come out when it was very unconventional and unpopular for him to even wouldn't have done it. So for me, it showed someone who had political will. And he came out 29th of May and then announced the removal of the subsidy. They had a whole month for Nigerians to maybe get into it, but he didn't. And then Labour, they had a meeting earlier on, and they said, okay, let's have a meeting. They've had 2 meetings till this strike, and then they're still negotiating, or apparently negotiations are on the table. But the questions Nigerians are asking is, we agree, like childbirth, we should, we'll go through that pain before we start to see. But must the mother be in pain? Can't you induce the birth? Can't you have a CS? I mean, there are other things to do. You know, shouldn't we have had palliatives rolled out, maybe buses, CNG buses, or other things that would have ameliorated the sufferings for the masses before the president actually implemented the removal of the fuel subsidy? So that's the argument that Labour is having.
So on the emphasis again, you know, because you repeating now before the president implemented the removal of the subsidy. Okay, Ashwaju took off from the last government 29th of May. Yes. Right, and the fuel subsidy was going to terminate by 31st of June.
The whole month.
A month, you know. So he came in, like I've said, government is a continuum. And the cumulative, we're only looking at it from, most of us are looking at it from a layman point of view. Because the cumulative effect of the lack of even fund to sustain the subsidy regime was going to crystallize on us. Okay. When this subsidy was going to be removed by 31st of June. It was going to crystallize on us. And a month is not enough for you to negotiate for increment in salary, for you to provide, whether it's the diesel or the CNG buses we're going to use, for you to distribute palliatives that will cushion the effect of the removal of subsidy to Nigerian, for you to implement all these emergency measures you need to put in place to ease these pains. We all know that it's not going to be enough. Meanwhile, this is a government that has just been inaugurated. You need to form his cabinet because it is even the ministers. Like currently, if we had a minister for labor, he's the one that should be interfacing with the labor union. Yes. Right now, we don't even have a substantive minister for labor yet. The ministerial list was barely submitted about 4 or 5 days last week. On Friday. On Friday last week. You get so. Government is just starting. It's unfortunate. Everything is. We're all bearing the brunt of this. Yes. All of us. I'm not buying unsubsidized food. I'm buying. We're all Nigerians. But let's be realistic about what is happening to the country. Now, this is a government that is listening. You remember the last time we were discussing about 8,000 naira to be distributed to Nigerians as a palliative. You know, Nigerians came out and they said that this thing is not going to work. Distributing money is not going to be sustainable. At the end of the day, just like throwing, you have an inferno and you're just throwing cups of water on it. That one is not going to make any effect. So you see the government clearly listening to Nigerian, and there was a reversal, and said that there's going to be a proper plan to ensure that ensure that interventions is sustainably carried out. So that shows the government that is listening, despite the fact that there's no substantive minister for labor in place. There was a committee set up to interface with labor, you know, to discuss this, and they have had series of conversations. Even before this last meeting I held yesterday, Ashwaju came up with measures. This is the government that is telling you that he is going to invest about 100 billion.
125 billion.
100 billion to produce 3,000 CNG buses that will be distributed nationwide. Yes. The government is telling you that it's going to invest another 50 billion to ensure that it's an intervention to farmers, so that we'll have about 200 hectares of land cultivated for rice and maize. Then another 50 billion to be invested for wheat and cassava for 100,000 hectares of land. Then we'll have, this is a government that is telling you for nano businesses, it's going to be giving them, what is nano business? We're talking about somebody that is a shoemaker. Not even startup, like people, nano businesses. We are talking about a shoemaker here, we are talking about a cobbler here, we are talking about a tailor here, we are talking about a vulcanizer here, that he's going to be giving, starting from next month, that he's going to make provision for 50 billion. That this will be an intervention, a grant. It's not going to be a loan. It's a grant to all these nano businesses that, okay, for you have access to 50,000. You can imagine what the ripple effect of that will be. And this is a government that is telling you that they're going to give about, they're going to invest another 125 billion to small and medium scale entrepreneurs, that you're going to have access from 500,000 to 1 million. And this is going to start from next month, and it will run through March next year. So what else do you want from the government? And the government is still telling you that, okay, well, there's a committee already negotiating with the labor union. And this government is telling you that there is process to review salary increment is in place. And this is a government that is putting everything in place to ensure that private sectors work. So what else do we want from government? Nigerians, we need to ask ourselves.
I like this rhetorical question you're asking.
Yes.
But this is only after the NLC had threatened the strike. It seemed like the president's nationwide speech was a reactionary measure after they could tell that NLC was indeed ready. And you must also admit...
Sorry for interrupting you. I beg to disagree with you, because you cannot call that a reactionary measure. You know, because if the reason why you can't call that is this is a government that since its inception has reeled out policies, make the presidential pronouncements to ensure that it has put a lot of things, have begun to put policies in place. We're talking about tax, company tax reviews, pronouncement policies that have been made. These are policies that the government is putting in place to ensure that the private sector thrive, right? To produce, to ensure that our people that are majorly in the formal and informal sector, not public sector this time around, formal and informal sector, that is private sector, like private sector businesses is taken care of. So we can see obvious policy pronouncement from this government.
However, if I would just...
And let's not forget, this is just 60 days old. This government is just 60 days old.
I need you to understand that way before now, the NLC had a meeting with the presidency, and after that meeting they were very optimistic that we would see the reeling out of this effective immediately. In fact, we were on the program here talking about how NLC was the one assuring us at the time that this government seems serious. Would you say that the distrust has started building up? You know that there's been the TUC and NLC distrust in previous or successive governments. Are we beginning to see a problem here, cracks, where the government is not reeling out those intervention funds as fast as they had promised, and it is now taking us back to good old days where the government will proclaim something, memorandum of understanding and action will be signed and nothing will be done?
You know, we cannot just expect, you and I know that NLC to want to show muscle. You know, we cannot just expect them to behave like a lame dog, you know, without reacting, because Nigeria, you and I knows that it is biting for all of us. I'm not living in another planet. I'm not living in another country. But we're just appealing to NLC that it is in the interest of all of us. You know, even at a point, years back, NLC was advocating for a removal of subsidy.
That they did not argue.
I get it. So this removal of subsidies and the fallout from the removal of subsidies should be a collaborative, you know, effort for Nigeria, because at the end of the day, we all believe it's a consensus. You see, LP campaign with removal of subsidy, PDP campaign for the removal of subsidy, coincidentally APC campaign for the removal of subsidies. So what it means is that if the other political candidates were actually sincere to Nigeria, by the time they were going to remove the subsidy, and it was not going to be far-fetched from how we were going to address it.
Sorry, well, maybe you'll be a senator one day. My apologies. Because we're talking of ministerial list and everything. Honorable Atta, everything you've said, it's the reality of what it is. We're still waiting for the ministers to come in. If they had the ministers, they could have done all of this, and rightly so. The body language, people may agree or may not agree. Everybody has a right to their point of view, but the summary is that we seem to have a president who's listening. We seem to have a president who, I quote him, feels the empathy of Nigerians. He wants the poor to breathe. I want to breathe. Everybody wants to breathe because it's really choking. Would you say that Labour is wrong in going for a strike? Because Labour represents people. And
a protest.
That's why they're doing a protest, right? And first of all, every citizen in Nigeria has a right to a peaceful protest. The newspapers today, the police is assuring that they're going to ensure the protest is not, taken over by miscreants. They're going to make sure it's peaceful, which is what we want to see in a democratic society, that people can voice out their grievances.
Absolutely.
Which is what Labour is doing, and you can't take it away from them,
Absolutely.
irrespective of whatever the government is promising. Nigeria has been through a lot of years. The past 8 years has not been so friendly for the average Nigerian.
That's true.
Unfortunately, the vehicle is still APC. So maybe that could also be some kind of distrust, that we could say, oh, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu may have the best intentions for Nigeria. Just like when President Muhammadu Buhari was the president, you will hear people that would clamor and say, oh no, Buhari is an honorable person, he has the best intentions. But we know as a fact that having the best intentions are not just okay. Saying the right things on TV, in broadcast speeches, are not just enough for Nigeria, where we currently are. So, do you think that with everything you've said, which is what it is, Labour is wrong in going for the protest? I don't think so, because they represent the healthcare sector. The medical doctors are on strike. They're trying to negotiate, and then they're increasing. What I heard was, I thought it was even 25%. I heard it's just 25,000 extra added. You do a school-to-school project. If you look at the health sector, there's urgent need for their attention there. So, and these are all the unions that NLC and TUC represent, that we really need. Something has to give. Basically, that's what they're saying. So I think the protest, it's not anti-government, if that's what people want to look at it. How could, or what would you think NLC should do better with this protest that is starting today in ensuring that they get the demands, not ridiculous demands, realistic demands that will ameliorate the lives of the average Nigerians?
Thank you so much. A very good question. Coincidentally, NLC has a lot of balancing to do.
Okay.
You get, like in a democratic setting, peaceful protest is allowed because it's a way of the masses to lay out their concerns. Government, okay, you are hearing us, but you still want to shout. These are our concerns. You get. So I want to advocate that since they have insisted for today that they are going to go on protest, it should be as peaceful as possible. If it is not been halted, it should be as peaceful as possible, because it's a way of Nigerians to say, okay, we're fed from you, but listen to us, we're hungry, we don't have transport, things are expensive in the market. You get. But I want to remind us that the challenge we are facing as a country, for us to be able to address this, we have agreed that this fuel subsidy have to go.
Absolutely.
It's not in our interest.
Yes.
Then the double exchange rate.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous that, okay, it was just like people making money, you give somebody money, somebody else collects money and he has made billions, It's not in the interest of Nigerians. You can see from the policies, the interventions that Asiwaju rolled out about 3 days ago, we're not talking about nano loans. That a Danjuma, that is a cobbler somewhere in Okene, can access 50,000 naira and put into his business. You know how far that can go. That an Emeka that is somewhere in Onitsha, that is into petty dredging, can, without anything, is a grant, can collect 50,000 naira from next month and put into his business. We know how, and we're talking about cumulatively, the government is going to spend 50 billion for Nigeria in that. So when we're talking about fuel subsidies, the names that we're hearing was the Oandos and the MRA, So, we're hearing about all these big multinational oil companies. But now, the narrative now is now about Emeka and Musa that is somewhere, that is going to benefit from the removal of the money that have been saved from the removal of subsidies. So this situation we are in is a situation that involves that all hands should be on deck. You are an NLC, you are a Nigerian. The government policies, what the government is trying to do is in the interest of all of us. We all agree just now that the exchange rate is not in our interest, that the subsidy is not in our interest. What it means is that the problem that the government has identified as a major problem from onset of this administration is not in the interest of any of us. So collaboratively, we should be able to support this government to ensure that the government succeed. If LP was going to remove the fuel subsidy, if PDP was going to remove the fuel subsidy, and APC said he was going to remove the fuel subsidy. So we're doing what everybody agreed that we're going to do.
Maybe the quarrel
so
is the implementation
now,
and the timing.
Yes, so
that's
what I'm
the
saying
problem.
now is that
I know that even when
the implementation,
yes, even
at the
when Atiku had
implementation,
made a comment, he had said,
yes,
look, I fault this. Even when LP candidate had made the comment, everybody had agreed that yes,
Ashwaju
they
was
are
not
going
to do this alone.
Okay.
Ashwaju was inaugurated on 29th of May. Even if he was going to drive policies, he was going to drive policy through ministries and agencies and ministries of government, parastatals of government. So that means that if there's going to be, it's going to be, even if you are going to give subsidy to Nigerians, it's going to be systemic. It's a systemic process. So Ashwaju will not, even if you make policy pronouncement from here till their kingdoms come, somebody is going to ensure that, those policy pronouncements that are in documents is implemented. So how do you get that done without the ministers? So what I'm playing for us this morning is that we should understand, we should be coming down for ourselves. We should be coming down for ourselves. We are all in this together. Ashwaju is not ruling out his policy statement from somewhere in UK. He's in Nigeria. Yeah, he's the president of, he's leading from the front.
Yeah, but you agree.
So it's not government in absentia.
You agree a hungry man is an angry man.
I'm also hungry.
But you agree
I'm
with
hungry
me
and I'm angry too. But we need to do this collaboratively.
You will agree that people are hungry, and that's
all of us. We are all hungry.
Nigerians are a lot.
All of us we are hungry.
When you take into cognizance the underage, what do you call that word? When you say marginally poor, simply poor people, the percentage of very poor Nigerians.
Okay, multidimensional.
Now that's the word.
Multidimensional.
you
okay, people say multidimensional poverty.
There's a high percentage of multidimensional poor people in Nigeria. Over the years, government has not been able to build the trust of people. Maybe, sadly, that's some of the things that, President Mohammed Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going through.
Very interesting. Over time, the practice is that government has not been able to win that confidence of the followers of Nigeria.
So how and what will you do different now?
Okay, now look at
to
it.
Make
let me tell you something.
Believe
let me just tell you something.
If they don't go on strike, they will get everything they want.
Good. Let me tell you something. This is a government that ever since the inauguration, consistently for every public forums he was able to address, he said he is going to maintain an open door policy. That he's going to maintain an open door policy. What does that mean?
That's English.
Am
I going to go to the dealer and knock on his door?
Look, what it means is that you as a journalist,
yes,
if you want to know what this government is about, it's just for you to find your location to the villa and get an appointment to see the chief press secretary or to have an access to authentic information. Nobody is going to buy you from visiting the villa. A jury Ngilari was appointed yesterday as
special advisor for media and publicity.
To the president. Yes. He addressed the journalists.
Beautiful speech.
I get
and I hope it's going to be like that.
This government is going to maintain an open door policy. So the reason for doing that is that that's going to be, going forward, there's going to be a sharp deviation from even communication line from our leaders to Nigerians. There's going to be an open door policy towards that. So this is the government that is ready to open its door, that has, you can see the level of sincerity in government. He's willing to address the challenges of Nigeria. What we continue to appeal to Nigerians is that we are all in this together. Our house is burning. Somebody should not be trying to quench the inferno, and the other person is trying to
ignite it.
You get so we should collaboratively try to see how we can salvage this together.
Okay, so the strike action, the protest rather, is ongoing as we speak. What would you tell NLC in spite of all you have said? Is there still room for negotiations? Because we thought that with that president's speech, we will no longer see a strike action. What would you tell Nigerians? Would you tell them not to join the protest? What would you say?
I would tell Nigerians that, it's just like the similitude is like our house is burning. We're all in the house together. While some others are trying to get buckets or maybe try to call the ambulance to come and put off the fire, some other people want to just let the fire burn. You get? So that is not the best approach for this. You know, this is a government that, despite the fact that, you know, was inaugurated, had not appointed the ministers. You know, they are going through the screening now. You know, from day one, he set up the committee to look into NLC's affair, and they've been having meetings. So at the end of the day, we're not going to war. It's going to be dialogue. It's dialogue that will resolve this. And from day one, he set up the committee to dialogue with NLC. And yesterday, they still met. They're still dialoguing. And even before they met, the president came out and he started rolling out policies that is going to alleviate this. We know this is going to be systemic. Things will not just trickle down to Nigerians like that. I will appeal to Nigerians that we should be very patient. We should still be patient.
Okay.
We should still be patient
Because
we're all going through
patient.
the same childbirth pains. We're all going through the same childbirth pains.
Are we aware that
this government is trying? Yeah, it's going to be.
Are we aware that this is childbirth pain that would culminate to a bouncy baby?
It's going to culminate into
twins,
a boy and a girl. a bouncy baby boy and a girl. I get it, and it's going to be a very. So we should be a little bit more patient with the government.
Right.
We should try to be collaborative in our approach to solving this problem. At the end of the day, we should pray for our leaders.
I don't like that part.
It. Yeah, no, I like that part.
I don't like that part. Let me tell you why. Nigerians, I'm sorry I have to say this, Nigerians are very religious people. I'd rather be spiritual than religious. A leader signed up for a job. And then I don't think prayers is what should keep him there. I think competence should it.
Yes.
So I think we should be clamoring and arguing, not saying, okay, let's pray for our leaders. We have prayed for 1999 till date. We have been praying for our leaders. We've been praying for Nigeria. So when people say that, it kind of aches me. I'm sorry, my point of view, it might not go right, but I want to see leaders who are praying for Nigerians.
You know, however you look at it,
we are the ones that put them in power.
You are right. However you looked at it, you know, like opinion is like a nose. Everybody has his own.
Yes.
Right. You know, like I can be looking at something from this direction.
Yes.
You are looking at it from a different direction.
Absolutely.
But the both of us, we are right. You get? Like what I mean that Nigerians should pray for their leaders is that we all believe that there is a supernatural force that is behind all of us.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And it's that supernatural force that gives us wisdom to do what we do at every point in time, despite the fact that you have capacity to do what you're doing.
Okay.
Like you have a cumulative experience.
So the supernatural force is to help Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
So we should pray that supernatural force that is behind the creation of this world itself should give our leaders wisdom to be able to do the right thing for our followers at every point in time, to salvage this. That is what I mean by prayers.
Okay, so
because at the end of the day, if he succeeds,
yes,
it will be to the benefit of all of us.
Absolutely.
We all want to to on our tap, and water is rushing. We want to go back home after a very hectic day job, and we see the light is there. We want to go home, and after a very hectic day job, at least, even if you don't have your car, you can you see a public vehicle that you can take to your
clean and effective
AC.
We all want the Nigeria
you get in Nigeria that will work for everyone.
We have to stop you here. It's very interesting talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.
But the summary is a renewed hope. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Things hopefully should get better.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ife, and thank you so much, Joy. It's a great opportunity to have this interaction with you today. We're looking for a Nigerian that is going to work for all of us, and the future is going to be bright for us. So let's approach this challenge we have with a collaborative mindset.
Wow, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Honorable Shehu Attar. He's the member, APC, and convener, Bola Tinubu School to School Initiative. Many thanks for being on Aso Morning.
Thank you so much.
And that's how we wrap up the program this morning. But of course, tomorrow is another day, so make a date with us, and then we'll see you 8 o'clock. Till now, I'm Ifunanya Yvonne Amafili.
And I am Joy Asoye. Do have a wonderful day, and be rest assured we'll be back tomorrow.